Macha, this is called the Curse of Macha, who was an Irish goddess associated with horses and war. The story tells of how she came in the form of a woman to the house of a widower called Cruncu. She became the woman of the house on the condition that he would not tell anyone about her. Cruncu did not keep the promise. Instead, on a fair day, a day at the fair, basically, he organised by the King of Ulster, he was more inclined to boast by saying his wife could his wife could run faster than the king's horses. The king was insulted and bid her to race his horses. By then, Macha was pregnant with twins. She begged the king to wait until her babies were born, but he refused. Macha ran the race and won, but at the finish, she died, giving birth to the twins. However, before she died, she cursed the men of Ulster so that every time they were in their hours of need, they would be struck down with the pains of childbirth. That's the reason why the great hero Cuchulainn fought to defend the whole province of Ulster single-handedly. The site, Macha, where she delivered her twins, became the capital of Ulster. And just a little quote from Homer: "They did not know her. Gods are hard for mortals to recognize." She was well buried before the dark set in. People brought food to his house and company to keep him away from the loss, but they forgot about him then. Once a few days had passed, their compassion waned, as the length of a long night is unknown to some. They said things. Pity there wasn't a child, or pity he lived so far out in the hills, or it's no wonder she got sick with the cold wind that runs through that house. The kind one said, "Sure, who knows? Isn't it all out of our hands? And sometimes the way things happen is only for the gods to know." No one saw much of him after that, unless there was a horse fair where he would boast as if he was managing the whole country. He was ashamed of how it had gone, having set out with such a beauty for a wife. The next thing expected from him would have been a brood of sons to work all the stallions he was going to breed. I watched him from afar. I saw the lonely light in the evening shining faintly from his house. Wisps of smoke rose into the air, slow and mean. Was it pride that kept him alone in the cold? He could have gone to the king to ask for another woman, but he didn't. I was cold too, in a way that's difficult to describe. I'm not talking about cold from any wind nor frost. I'm above all that. But there was nothing holding me, nothing mundane, and no one for the talk with another. Isn't that a harsh east wind? That's a biting frost this morning. The sharing of small tragedies like a baby's bad night. I haven't had a wink of sleep for a week with that child crying. Everyday concerns like a dying sheep or cow. The old girl owes us nothing. We will miss her. Gossip. The roof on that house would fall in for the want of a good man. Instead, I live with the wind for company, the smell of my mane across my face, and a freedom that can go to waste. If the truth is known, sometimes I am the one responsible for the baby's bad night, or the unsettling dreams in a girl when her nature is too big for this world. I'm above the beaten path. I am wild nature, but there are times when I am lonely, and that's when I envy them. I can be weakened into wanting a path, a habit that will take me from the wind blowing freedom into my face. I did little things at first. I emptied the dead flowers, the stinking water from the vase on his windowsill. I cleaned out the fire, moved this, dusted that. I brought foxgloves from the wood, washed and dried his clothes, lit the fire and strangled a hen. I pictured myself as his wife, until the horses would come kicking at the door to call me back to the hills as night was falling. Potatoes were boiling one evening when he came in. I think he half expected me. We had no words. None were needed. Red, crackling smoke rose in circles under the stars that night from the hottest fire his house had ever seen. When morning came, he went out singing as he set his mares to the hills to mingle with the wild ones. Seeds from nature for the herd, and every day a wild mare would put her chest through the half door, call me home. I beat her back with my broom. I beat my old nature back. I hid it well. There were no reflections in his life to show me whole. I could hide behind my beauty, my skill in the kitchen. I could have been any wife to the passer-by. I knotted my mane under a shawl tied over my withers. Only night opened me, and a man is not frightened by the wildness at night. It was a modest tune that shrouded the might of me under my love for his turning up each day, warm water to wash, food and the fire that was in me had him wondering how I was so much. Until all that plenty and all that passion worked him back into the fullness of his health. But Crunker was no fool. He was wise enough to put his own work in, to keep the horse in me out. We colluded in that, until one night, when the moon was a definite shade of blue, he told me, "You are blue moon." I shuddered at him naming me rare, and when I shuddered, the horses whinnied out from the dark. He reassured. Something moved, they cannot see us all. Come to my bed, to my shelter from the premonitions feasting in you, he said. I forgot who I was when I begged for shelter under his bridled life. Keep me a secret, tell no one I'm here. Keep me a secret, tell no one I'm here. Keep me a secret, tell no one I'm here. While I pleaded for our life, he swore and crossed his heart. I believed him. What was I? A wild horse with a baby's heart awoken into trusting that he could love me? I believed I knew something about love. I imagined it opening like flowers smiling at the sun. I trusted the sun, how it could be depended on, the way it would steam the wet from my back after a stormy night with its warm rays. I thought he loved me. I didn't see he was taking it all up as flattery, fattening him out far and away from his human heart, until I was no more a secret than the hills feeding the horses behind us. When fair day came, Crunku went away to sell, to buy, and to brag. I begged him, "Don't tell a soul about us. We are dear to each other, but we are a strange tale." He was off to the court of King Conor MacNessa for a fine day of feasting and selling and telling. I thought about it. I knew I was a rare find in his life, but there were many things he might say that would not raise an eyebrow. He could have said I was good in the kitchen, in the bed, for company, for work. I was sure he would never say all the rest. But all the rest was what he said. The very things I asked him not to say. As the king's horses were being paraded for their strength and health, their stamina and speed, as the king looked proudly on his unrivaled herd, my man, Crunku, told the whole court that his wife could outrun the lot of them. Through loose lips and a satisfied smile, he squandered me, just as I was growing tired in the evenings, with my feet up on my wild nature, because by then I was swollen with child, feeling at last like a woman, living a short life, forging time and gratitude, settling for the babies feasting on my blood and bones, who would someday give me the gift of death. I begged King Conor for time to put the woman aside. Sorry. I begged King Conor for time to put the woman aside. I begged them to let me give birth, recover, consider my choices, but he had suffered an insult, that I, a mere wife, was faster than his horses. How could that be? I wanted to say no, but if I did, Crunku would die for the insult the king had suffered. I wondered, could I do it? Having made the choice to hang up my old nature, wild horses had retreated from me, stopped kicking the door at night, stopped recognizing me as one of them. How would I muster old nature in that state? Crunku had said he will go and they'll see you. They'll know they have to wait until you're fit again. All will be well again, you'll see. I begged, he begged, we begged together, but that king wanted me to be a swollen-bellied cow. He wanted to laugh at the idea of me surpassing his mighty horses. So to keep his champion's blood flowing, I was bid to a race, to put all the kings behind me, to put all the king's horses behind me, to close Cruncu's boasting mouth. I gave my life for his. And so, with nothing left for me to do as a woman, except wipe the smile from a king's face, I held up my huge belly and gathered my horse nature in and won the race. Then at the last post, the king's horses surrounded me as my legs opened and my blood flowed and the sky went dark, though it was daytime. The horses licked my foals clean, while I, in my dying rage, cursed the men of Ulster. To the men from the land that bears my name, from this day on, you will witness the world opening inside you alongside the agony of bone tiredness, while your roofs fall in. Everything you hold dear and beyond will be out of the reach of your shielding. Life will ebb, death will taunt, war will march all over you, and while you watch your helplessness, you will be a living testimony to my outrage. For when you need her most, this horse will bolt. I cursed them with my outrage, then turned to the hills while all the horses fell in behind me, and the men of Ulster stared, mouths agape. It was tea time at home when I passed. A red light had erupted behind the hills. Crows were writing the evening on the sky. I pictured the flowers I had placed on the windowsill, a bowl full of small suns. I thought about the fire that would need a stoking to heat the night, how someone should close the door to the hens. I pictured the hounds skulking at the door, waiting for me to come home. Instead, on our way to the hills, a wild mare put her chest through the half door one last time.